Kyung-ho Park stood alone in the middle of the Great Hall. Around him, 47 different alien species sat in their special seats. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Strange lights flashed on the walls, showing words in languages he could not read. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would decide if humans could live or die. Kyung-ho wore his best blue suit, the one with Earth's flag on the chest. His hands did not shake, but inside his heart was beating fast. He had been Earth's ambassador for 10 years. He had talked to aliens who looked like giant bugs, others who were made of light, and some who breathed poison gas. But today was different. Today they were not here to talk about trade or peace. They were here to judge his entire species. High Chancellor Vextar stood up first. He was tall, with green scales and yellow eyes that looked like a snake's. His people, the Saurians, had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold. "Members of the Council," Vextar said, "we are here to discuss the human problem. These creatures have been in space for only 200 years, but they have already caused trouble. They fight each other. They do not follow our rules. They expand too fast into new systems." Kyung-ho wanted to speak, but the rules said he had to wait. He watched as holographic images appeared in the air above him. The images showed human wars, human cities, human ships moving between stars. The aliens had been watching everything. "Look at their history," Vextar continued. "They have had hundreds of wars. They created weapons that could destroy their own planet. They cannot even agree among themselves. How can we trust them in our galaxy?" A floating ball of blue light pulsed brighter. This was Omega-7 speaking for the Nexari collective mind. When it talked, its voice sounded like many people speaking at the same time. "We have studied their minds," the Nexari said. "Humans think differently than civilized beings. They do not share thoughts like we do. Each human thinks only for itself. This makes them dangerous and unpredictable. They are like a virus that will spread and destroy order." More aliens began to speak. The ethereals, who looked like tall shadows made of stars, said humans were too young to understand wisdom. The crystal beings from Zephyr Prime said humans moved too fast and broke things. The gas cloud entities said humans were too violent for a peaceful galaxy. One by one, they all said the same thing. Humans were dangerous. Humans were young. Humans would cause problems. Finally, it was time for Kyung-ho to speak. He walked to the center of the room and looked up at all the alien faces staring down at him. Some had eyes, some had sensors, some had things he could not even understand, but they were all watching him. "Honored members of the Council," Kyung-ho began, "you speak of humans as if we are monsters. Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made mistakes, but you judge us only by our worst moments." He pressed a button on his wrist device. New images appeared in the air. These showed humans helping each other during disasters, humans exploring space together, humans making art and music and stories. "You say we fight each other," Kyung-ho said, "but when the great earthquake hit Japan, the whole world sent help. When disease spread in Africa, doctors from everywhere came to help. When our cities flood, strangers risk their lives to save each other." The alien council was quiet, but Kyung-ho could feel they were not convinced. "You say we expand too fast," he continued, "but we explore because we want to learn. We meet new species because we want to be friends. Every human colony has volunteers who chose to leave their families behind to build something new." High Chancellor Vextar made a sound like a hiss. "Pretty words, human. But your nature does not change. Your species will bring chaos to our ordered galaxy." "Our nature is to survive," Kyung-ho said, his voice getting stronger. "We have survived ice ages that should have killed us. We survived diseases that wiped out other animals. We survived when our own sun was dim and our planet was frozen. We survived when huge rocks fell from space. We even survived our own weapons." He looked around the room, meeting the gaze of every alien he could see. "You think being different makes us weak," Kyung-ho said. "You think our chaos makes us dangerous. But our differences make us strong. Our chaos helps us solve problems you cannot imagine. You have been the same for thousands of years. We change and grow every day." The Nexari collective pulsed angry red. "This is exactly why you are dangerous. You do not understand order." "We understand order," Kyung-ho replied, "but we also understand that sometimes order needs to change." The vote came quickly after that. 43 species voted to quarantine humanity in their home system. Only 4 voted against it. The ethereal prime architect Thylos spoke the final judgment. Humanity will be contained within the Sol system, Thylos said, his voice echoing like wind through mountains. A barrier will be placed around your space. You will have 50 years to prove you can live in peace. If you cannot, you will be removed from the galaxy permanently. Kyung-ho felt cold inside, but he kept his face calm. And if we prove ourselves worthy in your eyes, then we will discuss your future, Vexstar said with a smile that showed sharp teeth. But we do not believe you will succeed. Your species will destroy itself within the barrier, and the galaxy will be safe. As the council session ended, Kyung-ho walked toward the exit. His steps were steady, but his mind was racing. 50 years. They had given humanity 50 years to change their entire nature or die. At the door, he stopped and turned back to face the council one more time. You think you know us, Kyung-ho said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You think we will break under pressure. You think we will give up when things get hard. You are wrong. He touched a small device hidden in his sleeve. A quantum signal shot across space toward Earth faster than light itself. The message was short. Protocol 7, they've made their choice. 50 years, Kyung-ho said to the silent council. Watch and see what humans can do when we have something to prove. Then he walked out, leaving 47 alien species to wonder if they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 6 months had passed since the council's judgment. Now Admiral So-Young Kim stood on the bridge of the battleship Seoul, staring at the wall of light that surrounded the entire Sol system. The barrier stretched from one end of space to the other, shimmering like water but strong as steel. Nothing could get in or out. Beyond the barrier, 12,000 alien warships waited in perfect formation. Their dark hulls blocked out the stars, and their weapons pointed inward at Earth's home. So-Young had counted them herself, using every telescope and scanner humanity had. 12,000 ships against Earth's hastily built fleet of 800. Admiral, called Captain Hana Choi from her station, the morning broadcast is starting. So-Young nodded and watched the main screen. Every day, the aliens sent the same message to every human ship, every space station, every settlement on Mars and the Moon. The voice belonged to High Chancellor Vexstar, speaking in perfect English. Humans of Sol System, the message began. You have been contained for 183 days. Your supplies grow short. Your people grow tired. Why do you continue this pointless resistance? Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick and painless. So-Young turned off the screen with disgust. The same words every day, trying to break their spirit before the real fighting began. Any response from Earth Command? She asked. President Dongmin Yoon wants to speak with all fleet commanders in 1 hour, Hana replied. And Admiral, there's something else. Dr. Jin-Woo Lee has been studying the barrier. He wants to meet with you. 20 minutes later, So-Young floated through the corridors of the research section. In the low gravity, her boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. She found Dr. Lee in his laboratory, surrounded by floating screens full of numbers and strange diagrams. Jin-Woo looked tired. His hair was messy, and his eyes were red from staring at screens for too long. But when he saw So-Young, he smiled with excitement. Admiral, I have bad news and worse news, Jin-Woo said, pulling up a 3-dimensional image of the barrier. The bad news is that this barrier is not just keeping us trapped, it's slowly poisoning our sun. So-Young felt her stomach drop. What? Do you mean poisoning? The barrier is designed to absorb certain types of energy from our star, Jin-Woo explained, pointing at the swirling patterns in the image. Over time, maybe 20 years, it will make the sun unstable. The aliens don't plan to wait 50 years. They want our star to explode and solve their problem for them. And the worst news? So-Young asked, though she was not sure she wanted to hear it. The worst news is that breaking this barrier from the inside is almost impossible. The aliens have been building this technology for thousands of years. We've been in space for 200 years. We're like Stone Age people trying to break down a modern fortress. So-Young was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she asked, You said almost impossible. That means there's still a chance? Jin-Woo's smile got bigger. There's always a chance. I've been studying the alien technology from the wreckage of their probe ships. Captain Choi's teams have been very good at shooting them down and bringing me pieces to examine. Hana, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. My pilots have gotten very creative. Yesterday we captured an entire scout ship. The crew didn't survive the crash, but their computers did. Perfect, Jinwoo said. Every piece of alien technology teaches us something new. They build things differently than we do. Their computers think differently. But the interesting thing is they all work together in the same way. Like a network? So Young asked. Exactly like a network. All their ships, all their weapons, all their barriers are connected. If we can find the right frequency, the right code, we might be able to turn their own technology against them. The communication system beeped, and President Dong Min Yoon's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than when the crisis began, with new gray hair and tired eyes. But his voice was still strong. All fleet commanders, all colony leaders, all station chiefs, the president said, I want to give you an update on our situation. The news is not good, but we are not giving up. The president's image was replaced by pictures of Earth. The planet looked different now. Giant construction machines worked day and night, building underground cities and factories. Millions of people had moved below ground, preparing for the war that everyone knew was coming. Our surface cities are being converted to military production, the president continued. Every factory now makes weapons, ships, or supplies for the fleet. Every university is now a research center working on new technology. Every person on Earth is now a soldier in this fight for our survival. So Young watched the images with pride and sadness. Children were learning to use emergency breathing masks in school. Grandparents were working in weapons factories. Scientists were sharing research that used to be secret. The whole human race was working together in a way that had never happened before. The aliens expected us to panic, President Yoon said. They expected us to fight each other for the last resources. They expected us to surrender when things got difficult. They were wrong. New images showed the construction of massive space installations around Earth, shipyards building new warships faster than anyone thought possible, mining operations on asteroids working 24 hours a day, communication arrays sending messages to every human settlement in the solar system. We have also received messages from some alien species, the president continued, his voice becoming more hopeful. Not all aliens agree with the Council's decision. Some are secretly sending us information about the fleet surrounding us. Some are offering to help when the time comes. So Young looked at Hana with surprise. Secret alien allies. This was the first she had heard of this. But do not mistake me, President Yoon said, his voice becoming hard again. We are not waiting for rescue. We are not depending on alien friends to save us. We are preparing to save ourselves. The transmission showed one final image. Earth's defense fleet, now grown to over 1,000 ships. They were not as big as the alien vessels, and their weapons were not as advanced. But they were built with human determination and human engineering. Every ship had been tested in battle simulations. Every crew had trained until they could fight in their sleep. Admiral Kim, the president said, looking directly at the camera, you and your fleet are humanity's sword and shield. The aliens think they know what humans will do under pressure. Show them they are wrong. The transmission ended, and So Young was alone with her thoughts. Around her, the Soul's crew worked at their stations, preparing for a battle that seemed impossible to win. But they worked with smiles on their faces, jokes on their lips, and hope in their hearts. Admiral, Hana said quietly, do you really think we can win? So, Young looked out at the alien fleet through the main window. 12,000 ships, each one bigger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. But beyond them, she could see Earth, a small blue dot that held everything humans had ever loved. I don't know if we can win, So Young said honestly, but I know we won't lose the way they expect us to. They think pressure will break us. They're about to learn that pressure just makes us stronger. She turned to her crew and raised her voice so everyone could hear. All stations, prepare for combat operations. Today we begin showing the galaxy what humans are really made of. As alarms began to sound and the Soul's engines roared to life, So Young smiled. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They thought they were hunting humans. They were about to discover that humans fight back. 2 years had passed since the barrier went up around Earth's solar system. Captain Hana Choi crouched in the shadows of an alien ship's cargo bay, her breathing mask fogging up in the cold air. Her team of 6 humans moved like ghosts through the corridors of the Saurian command vessel. They had one mission: steal the codes that controlled the quarantine barrier. Everything had changed 3 days ago. The aliens had grown tired of waiting for humans to surrender. They began firing on the civilian colonies on Mars and the Moon. Women and children died in the attacks. The aliens called it pressure to encourage cooperation. Humans called it murder. That was when the war really began. Hana touched her communication device and whispered, "Jinwoo, are you reading the ship's computer systems?" Dr. Jinwoo Lee's voice crackled in her earpiece from his position on the Sol. "I'm in their network, but barely. Their security is incredible. I need you to get to the main computer core on level 7. Copy that," Hana replied. She signaled to her team and they moved deeper into the alien ship. The Saurian vessel was huge, with corridors wide enough for 3 humans to walk side by side. Strange symbols glowed on the walls and the air smelled like sulfur and metal. Hana's team had practiced this mission 100 times on captured alien ships, but this was different. This ship was still active with over 1,000 enemy crew members. As they moved through the ship, Hana remembered the last 2 years. The aliens had expected humans to break under the pressure of the siege. Instead, something amazing had happened. All the old enemies on Earth had become friends. Countries that had fought for centuries now shared their technology freely. Rich people gave away their money to build weapons. Poor people worked in factories without asking for payment. The aliens had never seen anything like it. "Contact ahead," whispered Sergeant Tae-min from the front of the group. 2 guards by the elevator. Hana moved forward and looked around the corner. 2 large saurians with scales like armor stood beside a glowing doorway. They carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. But they were not expecting humans to be aboard their ship. Hana pulled out a small device that Jinwoo had built from captured alien technology. She pointed it at the guards and pressed a button. Both saurians suddenly stopped moving, their eyes becoming blank and empty. "Neural disruptor works perfectly," she whispered into her communicator. "Jinwoo, you're a genius. Just hurry," Jinwoo replied. "I can only keep their sensors confused for another 10 minutes. The team reached level 7 without meeting any more guards. The main computer core was behind a door made of some kind of energy field. Hana placed another of Jinwoo's devices against the wall next to the door. The device hummed quietly, and the energy field flickered and died. Inside the computer core, walls of crystal and metal hummed with power. Streams of light flowed through transparent tubes like blood through veins. This was the brain of the alien ship, and it was connected to every other ship in the fleet. "I'm connecting our interface now," Hana said, plugging Jinwoo's special computer into the alien system. "How long do you need?" "At least 5 minutes to download their barrier codes," Jinwoo replied. "But Hana, I'm seeing something else in their files. The aliens are planning something big. They're not just trying to break our spirit anymore. They're planning to destroy Earth completely." Hana felt cold anger rise in her chest. "When?" 2 weeks from now. "They're going to use some kind of weapon that will crack our planet like an egg." Before Hana could reply, alarms began screaming throughout the alien ship. Red lights flashed, and she could hear the sound of running feet in the corridors outside. "They found us," she said to her team. "Defensive positions." The door to the computer core exploded inward, and alien soldiers poured through the opening. These were not regular saurians, but their elite warriors, bigger and stronger than normal. Their weapons fired bolts of energy that melted metal. Hana's team fired back with their human weapons. The guns were smaller than the alien energy weapons, but they fired faster and never seemed to run out of ammunition. The humans moved and fought like dancers, covering each other and using the alien ship's own walls for protection. "Jinwoo, how much longer?" Hana shouted over the noise of the battle. 3 more minutes. "Keep them back!" One of Hana's soldiers, Private Youngsu, cried out as an energy bolt hit his arm. But instead of falling down, he grabbed an alien grenade from his belt and threw it at the enemy. The explosion sent 3 Saurian warriors flying. "They keep coming," shouted Sergeant Taemin. "There must be 50 of them out there." Hana looked at her team. They were brave, but they were only 6 humans against hundreds of aliens. In a fair fight, they would lose quickly. But humans had never been interested in fair fights. "New plan," she said with a grin. Youngsu, how many explosive charges do we have left? 8, Captain. Perfect. Everyone, plant charges on the support beams around this room. If we can't get out of here quietly, we'll make some noise. Her team moved quickly, placing the small bombs on the metal beams that held up the ceiling. The aliens kept attacking, but the humans fought with a desperation that surprised their enemies. Every time a Saurian thought he had a clear shot, a human would appear from a different angle. Download complete. Jinwoo's voice shouted through the communicator. Hana, I have the barrier codes. But there's more. I also found their fleet communication frequencies and their command codes. We can turn their own ships against each other. Outstanding, Hana replied. Everyone, fall back to the escape pods. 30 seconds until we blow this place. The team ran through the corridors as aliens chased behind them. Hana counted down in her head, 20 seconds, 15, 10. They reached the escape pod bay just as she pressed the detonator. The explosion shook the entire ship. Emergency lights flashed and the artificial gravity failed. Hana and her team floated through the air as they climbed into the small escape pod. This is the crazy part, Hana said to her team as she started the pod's engines. Hold on. The escape pod shot out of the alien ship like a bullet from a gun. Around them, other alien ships were turning their weapons toward the pod, ready to destroy it. But Jinwoo was already using the stolen codes. Suddenly, the alien ships began firing at each other instead of at the escape pod. Their own computers had been turned against them, and they could not tell friend from enemy. In the confusion, Hana's pod streaked toward the human fleet. Seoul, this is Captain Choi, she said into her communicator. Mission successful. Dr. Lee, please tell me you can use those codes to break the barrier. Better than that, Jinwoo replied, his voice full of excitement. I can turn the barrier into a weapon. Instead of keeping us in, it's going to keep them out. And Hana, I think I know how to send a message to the entire galaxy. 20 minutes later, Hana stood on the bridge of the Seoul next to Admiral So-young Kim. They hugged, watched the main screen as Jinwoo worked his magic with the stolen alien technology. Barrier around Earth's solar system flickered and changed. Instead of a wall keeping humans trapped inside, it became a shield keeping the alien fleet locked outside. 12,000 enemy ships suddenly found themselves cut off from their supply lines and reinforcements. But the best part was still coming. All human ships. This is Admiral Kim, So-young announced on all frequencies. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our families. Today we stop running and start fighting back. The human fleet, now grown to 1,500 ships, moved toward the trapped alien fleet. The ships were smaller and had fewer weapons, but they moved with perfect coordination. Every captain knew exactly what to do, and every crew member was ready to die for their home. But more importantly, they were ready to make their enemies die first. Jinwoo, Admiral Kim asked, are you broadcasting this to the entire galaxy? Every species in known space is watching, Jinwoo confirmed. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. As the first human ships engaged the confused alien fleet, Hana smiled. The aliens had thought they were hunting helpless prey. They were about to learn that they had awakened something much more dangerous than they ever imagined. They had awakened humanity's anger. 3 years had passed since the Great Trial. Now it was the aliens who were afraid. Kyung-ho Park stood in the command center of New Hope Station, watching reports from across the galaxy. The station orbited a planet that used to belong to the Saurian Empire, but now flew the flag of the Free Worlds Alliance. Around him, humans worked alongside aliens from dozens of species, all united in their fight for freedom. Everything had changed after the humans broke the quarantine barrier. Ambassador, called Dr. Jinwoo Lee from his workstation, we're getting reports from the Andorian system. Another slave species has risen up against their masters. They're asking for human military support. Kyung-ho nodded. Send Admiral Kim's Third Fleet, and make sure they bring medical supplies. The Zeridians always poison the water supplies when their slaves rebel. It had started small. When news spread that humans had defeated a coalition fleet of 12,000 ships, oppressed species across the galaxy began to hope. The mighty powers that had ruled for centuries were not as strong as they claimed. If humans could win, maybe others could too. The first to rebel were the Keth, a species that looked like giant cats with blue fur. They had been slaves to the crystal beings of Zephyr Prime for over 1,000 years. When human ships arrived to help, the Keth fought alongside them with claws and teeth against their former masters' energy weapons. The humans taught them something the Keth had forgotten. Free beings fight harder than slaves. Captain Hana Choi entered the command center, her uniform dusty from battle. She had just returned from the Rigel colonies where her special forces had helped liberate 3 more species from Nixari control. "How did it go?" Kyung-ho asked. "Better than expected," Hana replied with a tired smile. The Nixari collective mind doesn't handle surprises well. When we disrupted their communication network, individual Nixari units started thinking for themselves for the first time in centuries. Half of them joined our side immediately. Dr. Jin Woo looked up from his screens. "That's the 5th Nixari world that's broken free from the collective this month. I don't think their hive mind can survive much more damage." Kyung-ho walked to the large window that showed space around the station. Human ships flew in formation with vessels from 30 different species. Some looked like silver fish, others like geometric shapes made of light. The strangest were the Vorthon, ships that seemed to be made of living coral. All of them had one thing in common. They flew the banner of the Free Worlds Alliance. "Ambassador," said a new voice from the communication station. It was Lieutenant Minho, a young human who specialized in alien languages. "We're receiving a priority message from Admiral Kim. She says it's urgent." Admiral So Young Kim's face appeared on the main screen. She was calling from the bridge of her flagship, the Incheon, somewhere near the core worlds of the old Galactic Empire. "Kyung-ho," Admiral Kim said, "we have a problem. High Chancellor Vextar has convinced the remaining council members to use their ultimate weapon. They're planning to destroy Earth with something called a Star Killer device." Kyung-ho felt his blood turn cold. "How long do we have?" "Intelligence suggests 2 weeks, maybe 3. The device has to be transported from the galactic core to our solar system. It's heavily guarded, but Kyung-ho, this thing can actually make stars explode. If they use it on our sun, everyone in the solar system dies." The command center became very quiet. Every human and alien stopped their work to listen. Earth was more than just humanity's home now. It had become a symbol of hope for every oppressed species in the galaxy. If Earth died, the rebellion might die with it. "What do you need?" Kyung-ho asked. "Everything we have," Admiral Kim replied. "This is going to be the biggest space battle in galactic history. The Star Killer is escorted by over 8,000 ships, including vessels from species we haven't seen before. They're bringing everything they have left." Captain Hana stepped forward. "Admiral, my special forces are ready. If we can get close to that device, we can disable it." "I was hoping you'd say that," Admiral Kim said with a grin. "But Hana, this isn't going to be a stealth mission. They know we're coming. This is going to be a straight fight, and we're going to be outnumbered 4-1. Dr. Jin Woo raised his hand. "Admiral, I've been working on something. Remember how we turned the Nixari communication network against them? I think I can do the same thing to the Star Killer device itself." "Explain," Kyung-ho said. "All the old Empire's technology is connected," Jin Woo said, his eyes bright with excitement. "The Star Killer device has to communicate with the ships escorting it. If I can hack into that communication network during the battle, I might be able to turn the device's power against the Empire's own fleet." Admiral Kim looked interested. "How close would you need to be?" "Very close. Maybe a few thousand kilometers, and the hack would take at least 10 minutes of uninterrupted work." 10 minutes in the middle of the biggest space battle ever, Captain Hana said thoughtfully. "That's going to require one hell of a distraction." Kyung-ho made his decision. "Admiral Kim, gather every ship we have. Every human vessel, every allied fleet, every freed slave species that can fight. If this is going to be our final battle, let's make it one the galaxy will remember forever." Over the next week, ships poured into the rendezvous point near the Centauri system. The human fleet had grown to over 3,000 vessels, from tiny fighters to massive battleships built in Earth's orbital shipyards. But more impressive were the Allied ships. The Keith brought their hunter-killers, small ships designed to attack in swarms. The freed Nixari units brought their geometric vessels that could link together into larger formations. The crystal beings who had switched sides brought ships that looked like flying cathedrals made of pure light. Most surprising were the newcomers. Species that had been neutral in the war were now choosing sides. The ancient Vortai, who looked like walking trees, brought their bioships grown rather than built. The energy beings from the Dark Nebula brought vessels made of controlled lightning. All told, the Free Worlds Alliance had assembled nearly 6,000 ships. "It's still not enough," Admiral Kim said during the final strategy meeting. We're facing the combined fleets of 12 different empires. Some of those species have been building warships for 10,000 years. Numbers aren't everything, Captain Hana replied. We've got something they don't have. What's that? Asked Commander Jae Sung, one of the newer fleet captains. Hana smiled the way she always did before a dangerous mission. We've got nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. They're fighting to keep their power. We're fighting for our freedom. Kyung-ho stood up and looked around the room at the humans and aliens gathered for the final planning session. Generals and admirals, scientists and engineers, diplomats and warriors. All of them had risked everything to be here. Friends, he said. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council told us we would collapse under pressure. They said we would destroy ourselves when things got difficult. They were wrong then, and they're wrong now. He walked to the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. 8,000 ships in perfect formation, escorting a device that could kill stars. In 2 days, we're going to face the largest military force in galactic history, Kyung-ho continued. Some of us won't survive. But those who do will live in a galaxy where freedom means something again, where small species aren't afraid of big ones, where the strong protect the weak instead of enslaving them. The room was completely quiet now. The old empires think they know how this battle will end, Kyung-ho said. They think their advanced technology and superior numbers guarantee victory. They think we'll run when we see how powerful they are. He looked directly at Admiral Kim, then at Captain Hana, then at Dr. Jin Woo. Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens our family. As the meeting ended and everyone prepared for battle, Kyung-ho stayed behind to look at the tactical display one more time. 6,000 Allied ships against 8,000 Imperial vessels, with Earth's survival hanging in the balance. The odds were terrible. The enemy was stronger. Victory seemed almost impossible. Kyung-ho smiled. Those were exactly the kind of odds that brought out the best in humanity. The battle began at dawn, if you could call it dawn in the darkness of space. Admiral So-young Kim watched from the bridge of the Incheon as 8,000 enemy ships approached like a wall of death. The Starkiller device floated in the center of their formation, a massive sphere of black metal covered in weapons that could crack planets. All ships. This is Admiral Kim, she announced on the fleet communication channel. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every free being in the galaxy. Show them what we're made of. The Free Worlds Alliance fleet spread out in a wide formation. Human ships flew alongside vessels from 40 different species, each one volunteering to risk everything for freedom. The smaller ships darted between the larger ones like schools of fish, while the big battleships formed the backbone of their defense. Dr. Jin Woo. Lee worked frantically at his computer station aboard the Seoul. His fingers flew over the controls as he prepared the hacking program that might save them all. But first, they had to get close enough to the Starkiller device for his plan to work. Jin Woo, Captain Hana Choi called from her position. How long until you can start the hack? I need to be within 5,000 kilometers of that device, Jin Woo replied without looking up from his screens. And I need 10 minutes of uninterrupted time. In the middle of this battle, that's going to be nearly impossible. The first wave of enemy fire lit up space like a deadly fireworks show. Energy beams and missile salvos crossed the darkness between the two fleets. The Imperial ships fired in perfect coordination, their weapons targeting the largest Allied vessels first. But the Free Worlds Alliance had learned something from years of fighting against superior forces. They didn't fight like the old empires expected. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, the Allied ships scattered like leaves in a storm. Small groups of fast ships attacked from different angles, forcing the Imperial fleet to spread their fire. The bioships from the Vortai species actually split apart into dozens of smaller vessels, making them almost impossible to target. They're adapting faster than our computers can track, reported the tactical officer on High Chancellor Vextar's flagship. The massive Saurian vessel, the Dominator, was 3 times larger than any human ship, but it was having trouble keeping up with the chaotic battle around it. Irrelevant, Vextar hissed, his scaled face showing no emotion. We have superior numbers and firepower. Order all ships to protect the Starkiller device. Once it charges up, this rebellion ends forever. But the Starkiller device needed time to build up enough energy to destroy a star. And time was exactly what the Free Worlds Alliance was fighting to deny them. Captain Hana led a squadron of the fastest human ships in a desperate charge toward the device. Behind them, Allied vessels from a dozen species followed her lead. They had one job: Clear a path for Dr. Jinwoo to get close enough to hack the weapon. Hana, you've got 3 Imperial cruisers moving to intercept, Admiral Kim warned over the communication channel. Copy that, Hana replied, banking her fighter sharply to avoid a blast of energy that would have vaporized her ship. All fighters follow my lead. We're going through them, not around them. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for centuries. Hana's squadron flew directly at the 3 enemy cruisers, each one 100 times larger than her small fighter. At the last second, her ships scattered in different directions, confusing the enemy targeting systems. Some fighters flew under the cruisers, others over them. A few actually threw gaps in their hulls. The Imperial ships fired at everything but hit mostly empty space. Meanwhile, Hana's fighters dropped small bombs that attached to the enemy hulls and exploded, damaging critical systems. Path is clear, Hana announced. Jinwoo, you're up! The Soul, carrying Dr. Jinwoo and his hacking equipment, raced toward the Starkiller device. Around them, the largest space battle in galactic history raged on. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Debris from destroyed vessels tumbled through space. The darkness was filled with the energy beams of 1,000 different weapons. I'm in range, Jinwoo announced as his ship reached the 5-kilometer mark. Beginning the hack now. I need 10 minutes, and I need everyone to keep those Imperial ships away from me. What followed were the longest 10 minutes in human history. The Free Worlds Alliance threw everything they had at the Imperial fleet. Human Marines boarded enemy ships and fought hand-to-hand in their corridors. Allied bioships grew new weapons during the battle itself. The freed Nexari units linked their minds together to coordinate attacks that the enemy couldn't predict. But the Imperial forces had tricks of their own. Ancient ethereal beings began using weapons that could make Allied ships simply disappear. Crystal entities fired beams that turned matter into energy. War machines from the galactic core launched devices that created small black holes. Jinwoo, how much longer? Admiral Kim called out as her ship shook from enemy fire. 7 more minutes, Jinwoo replied, sweat dripping down his face as he worked. I'm almost through their main firewall. The battle was going badly for the Alliance. Despite their courage and creativity, they were being overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. Ship after ship disappeared in explosions of light. The survivors kept fighting, but everyone could see they were losing. Then something unexpected happened. Admiral Kim called the communication officer on the Incheon. We're receiving a transmission from the Imperial fleet. It's coming from High Chancellor Vextar himself. Vextar's reptilian face appeared on screens throughout the Allied fleet. His yellow eyes burned with anger, but also with something else. Fear. Admiral Kim, Vextar said, I offer you one final chance to surrender. Your fleet is broken. Your cause is lost. Order your ships to stand down, and I will allow your people to live as slaves rather than die as rebels. Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment, looking around her damaged bridge. Half her crew was wounded. Her ship's weapons were barely functioning. Through the main window, she could see the Allied fleet being steadily destroyed. Then she smiled. High Chancellor, she said, you still don't understand humans, do you? We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we sure as hell don't become slaves. She paused, then added, Dr. Lee, how much longer? 30 seconds, Jinwoo called out. Vextar's expression changed to confusion, then to alarm. What is he talking about? What are you doing? We're doing what humans do best, Admiral Kim replied. We're turning your own weapons against you. Jinwoo's voice rang out across all communication channels. Hack complete. Starkiller device is now under our control. The massive weapon that was supposed to destroy Earth's sun slowly turned toward the Imperial fleet. Its enormous energy cannon, charged and ready to fire, was now pointed at High Chancellor Vextar's flagship. Impossible, Vextar screamed. Our technology cannot be hacked by primitive beings. Your technology, said Dr. Jinwoo's calm voice over the communication system, was designed by minds that think the same way for thousands of years. Human minds think differently. We see solutions you never considered, but Jinwoo wasn't finished. As the Imperial ships tried to retreat, he activated the second part of his plan. Using the Starkiller's massive computer network, he sent a virus into every Imperial ship's navigation system. Suddenly, 8,000 enemy vessels found themselves unable to control their own ships. Some began flying in circles. Others drifted helplessly through space. A few actually began firing on each other as their targeting systems went crazy. All Allied ships, Admiral Kim announced. The enemy fleet is disabled. Begin rescue operations for survivors. We're going to show the galaxy how humans treat defeated enemies. In the days that followed, the news of humanity's victory spread across every star system. The mighty galactic empire that had ruled for millennia was broken. The species that had proclaimed humans too primitive for civilization had been defeated by human cleverness and determination. But the most important moment came later. In the rebuilt council chambers of New Concordia Station, Kyung-ho Park stood once again before an assembly of galactic representatives. But this time the audience was very different. Instead of 47 imperial species looking down on him, there were over 200 different beings sitting as equals. Former slaves sat next to former masters. Ancient enemies worked together to build a new kind of galaxy. 5 years ago, Kyung-ho began, you told my people we would collapse under pressure. You said we were too chaotic, too violent, too young for galactic civilization. He looked around the room at faces that belonged to creatures he could barely understand, but who had all learned to work together. You were right about one thing, Kyung-ho continued. We are chaotic. We don't always follow the rules. We question authority and challenge the way things have always been done. He smiled, remembering the long journey from that first trial to this moment. But you were wrong about what that means. Our chaos isn't a weakness. It's our strength. It helps us find new solutions to old problems. It helps us see possibilities that others miss. And most importantly, it helps us remember that freedom is worth fighting for. The assembly was completely quiet now. Representatives from species that had been enemies for thousands of years sat side by side, listening to a human explain how their galaxy could be better. The old empire is,